guys, my name is Megan and today I've got my April wrap up for you. Alright, so April was a bit of a crazy month. We had a freak snowstorm. We've had thunder and lightning for the past week and raining for the past week. It's been all around crazy. I also read a lot of books. So let's just go ahead and dive into what all I've read this month. Okay, so the first book that I read this month was Coffee and Fairy Cakes. This one was actually not on my TBR list for this month, but I'm so glad that I finally read this because it was just delightful and lighthearted and fluffy and just like a barely there romance, and it was just lovely, and it had an ace main character, a non-binary ace main character. It had so many different trans characters and different LGBTQ characters as characters, and it was just amazing. And this one got a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, next up was a reread of The Last Sun. This was such a good reread. I came across so many more like little things that I had either like forgotten or just didn't pick up on the first time around. And I really loved being back in this world. I loved seeing Rune and Brand and Adam and Max and Quinn all over again, like meeting for the first time. It was so good. This one is still a solid 5 out of 5 stars. I would highly recommend reading this if you haven't read it yet. The third book comes out in May and I'm ready for it. Okay, so next up was Seance Tea Party. This was just delightful. I loved that this followed a girl who just didn't want to grow up, and then she found a ghost friend who she could just be herself with, and then she learned how to grow up. Actually, both of these characters learned how to grow up together, and you know, it was just a lovely, very quaint and cute read, and I love the colors, and the characters themselves were all so much fun to read. This was just a really great read all around. This got a solid 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, so next up we have Firebreak. So I meant to finish this at the end of March, but I had to put this on hold for a little bit because this book got way too intense at the like 75% mark, and I couldn't keep reading it, and I needed something else to get away from all the intensity that this book had. But I did end up finishing this in April. This book, I'm gonna have a full review for this in May, so keep an eye out for that. This book was just brutal through and through, and like the ending will like shatter your heart because you know it's coming, you know it's going to end a certain way, and you understand that it has to be that way, but it just leaves you shattered. This one also got a 4 out of 5 stars. I would highly recommend if you're into sci-fi, and like it kind of can be compared to Ready Player One, but also not really, because this is so much more intense than Ready Player One would ever be. Okay, the next book that I finished was the Mayman Feast. This is the first book in the Wheel of the Year series by Seance Costa. It's set in the Cambric Creek universe, which I've talked about the books that are also set in this universe. Girls Weekend and Morning Glory Milking Farm. I love them. I really enjoyed this too. Somehow this was everything I was expecting, but also completely none of the things I was expecting at the same time. I really enjoyed the character of Ladybug because this one we get really blatant neurodivergent rep, and I love that because you don't get that a whole lot in urban fantasy books, and to see it in this universe is just so good. I also really ended up liking Anzan, who is the monster love interest. He's very interesting and quiet, and I would recommend you check out the trigger warnings and the book description before you dive into this one, because this one could be really hit or miss with a lot of people. But this one got a solid 4 out of 5 stars, and I can't wait for the next book. Okay, and then we are on to the books that I'm currently reading as of the filming of this video. The first one being The Hanged Man. This is a reread for me as well. I'm probably a little over halfway through this one, and I've got about a week left in the month to finish. I'm really loving this. Getting to be back in this world, getting to be back within these stories, and picking up little details here and there. I'm really loving it. The other book that I'm currently reading as of filming this video is The Tribulations of Ross Young, Supernatural PA. Oh my god, I love this so much. So this is a short story collection from AJ Sherwood that she released in her email newsletter, and it's about Ross Young, who ends up working for a clan of supernatural creatures as their personal assistant, basically. And each individual story cracks me up so much because it's the absolute ridiculous bullshit nature of supernaturals to just cause chaos everywhere they go, and it's hilarious. And Ross is so relatable, like the most relatable character I've ever come across in an urban fantasy book because his inner monologue is just what you would get if you have a service industry worker working for supernatural creatures. It's hilarious. And I love it. And then the last book that I'm planning to read before the end of the month is up is Fangs. This would be a reread for me as well. The next volume in this comes out in September, and I'm really looking forward to it, so I figured it's probably time for a reread. Alright, so that is everything that I read in April. My favorite book has to be The Last Son and Ross Young. They were so good, and probably Fangs will be right up there because that was a favorite from last year. What did you guys read this month? Did you have a favorite book? Let me know down below. If you guys like this video, don't forget the like button. If you haven't already but would like to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And if you'd like to follow me on social media for more bookish stuff, check out the links down below. Alrighty, bye guys!